Hi, and welcome to Life in the Limits. So, in today's video, I just want to share with you guys some things that I have picked up on while I was studying the book of Exodus. Um, this was an assignment that the Lord gave me, and I'm going to share that with you guys now. So, I am going to be pulling from the book of Exodus between the chapters of 1 through 13, and the title of this video is going to be called "The Plagues Were a Blessing." So before we get started, I do want to give you guys some numbers. So I'm going to give you guys some numbers, what they mean. It is going to be a lot, but just remember those numbers, try to remember those meanings, and then we'll go over those numbers and those meanings as we go through this. This video will be a little long, I'm not going to lie to you, but it will be so worth it once we get to the end. So the first number is the number 3. In Hebrew, it means freshness. The word origin for this is Abib, which is A-B-I-B. In the Greek, it means Abaddon, the angel of the abyss. And the word origin for Abaddon is destruction. So for the number 3, we have word origin of destruction, and then the word origin of Abib. And don't forget, it also means the angel of death and freshness. Then we have the number 7, which means in Hebrew to perish. It also means complete. And in the Greek, it means Abijah and Abiah, which is two Israelite names. And the word origin for Abiah is Yah is my father. Then we have the number 10 in Hebrew, that also means destruction. And the Greek, it means Abihad, who is the son of Zerubbabel. The name Abihad means my father is majesty. Remember, number 7, Yah is my father. Number 10, my father is majesty. Number 12, in the Hebrew means destruction. It also means divine order and authority, and it also means completeness. In the Greek, it means boundless, bottomless, and the usage of it is abyss. Now remember, there's also an angel of the abyss. His name is Abaddon, from the number 3. And that's for the number 12. So number 12, the use of it is abyss. Now this is also important. So then there's the number 6 in the Hebrew, which means to perish, which also means destruction. And in the Greek, it means Abel, and the name, and everybody knows Abel from Cain and Abel dies, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and get started with what I want to tell you guys. So I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis. I am going to look down quite a bit because I do have some notes. But y'all flow with me, y'all bear with me, y'all flow with me. This is the first time that I'm doing a video like this, kind of like a like a Bible study type video, but you guys just kind of flow with me. Again, I'm not too technologically savvy, so I'm trying to I bought this thing that'll help me keep this angle. It should stay on the whole time, but just in case it dies, I just want to let you guys know in advance, just in case like the angles change and stuff. Also, don't mind my background. I am moving, my sister is moving, it's a lot going on. Okay, so first off, I want to give you guys just a brief synopsis of what happens in the book of Exodus between chapters 1 and 13. Well, between chapters 1 and then up to chapter 7, and then I'll go through the plagues. So in the time of Joseph, so Joseph, who is the son of Jacob, Joseph is now he's second to the king, to Pharaoh in Egypt, and there is a great famine. If you don't know the story of Joseph, go back to Genesis and go read it. Okay, so Joseph invites his family, the Israelites, to live in Egypt for the 7-year famine that they are experiencing. Exodus 1 and 5 says that there was a total of 70 people, not including Joseph's family. While the Israelites are in Egypt, they are fruitful, so much so that the Pharaoh of the time, approximately 400 years later, is concerned with their growth and feels the Israelites will overtake them. And so the Pharaoh puts the Israelites in bondage and also commands that all the newborn sons be killed. In that time frame, a little boy is born. His mother finds him to be a goodly child, and she hides him until she can't anymore. So she decides to put him in an ark by the river. The baby is found by Pharaoh's daughter. She names him Moses. Moses grows up with the luxuries of a prince, but with the ultimate knowing that he is an Israelite. So much so that he is grieved when he sees an Egyptian beating and mistreating an Israelite. Moses commits murder and he kills the Egyptian. A hit gets put on Moses' head at that point. Moses flees, and he ultimately becomes a shepherd for his father-in-law. While he's out shepherding, he sees a burning bush. God speaks to Moses through the bush and tells him to go free the people from Egypt, to go free the Israelites. So Moses goes back to Egypt and he tells Pharaoh what God told him, and to let the Israelites go, to let God's people go. Pharaoh's heart is hardened, and then we get to the 10 plagues which the Egyptians experience before the Exodus. Okay, so here's what my video is all about. That the plagues were a blessing to the Israelites. The plagues go from chapter 7 to chapter 12. 7 means to perish, also means destruction, and 12 means destruction. Okay, so here are the 10 plagues in order. The very first one is water turning to blood. So all the water from the river, regardless of where it was turned to blood. Plague number 2 is the plague of frogs. Plague number 3 is the plague of lice. Plague number 4 is a swarm of flies. Plague number 5 is the death of all cattle. Plague number 6 is the plague of boils. Plague number 7 is hail and fire. Plague number 8 is locusts. Plague number 9 is 3 days of darkness. And then plague number 10 is the death of the firstborn. Okay, so how did I get into this? How did I come up with the plagues are a blessing? So I was reading, it the first time when I was going through, and I get to plague number 7 for hail and fire. And in Exodus 9:8 through 19, I am going to be reading Bible verses 2. Hold on, 9:18 through 19. Okay, it says, "Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as hath not been seen in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send therefore now, and gather thy cattle, and all that thou hast in the field, for upon every man and every beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail will come down upon them, and they shall die." Now the plague of hail and fire comes after the death of cattle, right? And so I was thinking to myself, God is not a man that he should lie. So if God said he killed all the cattle, he killed all of the cattle. So I was wondering, well, how did the Egyptians get more cattle then, right? And so then I had to go back and I reread all the plagues, but I read it from a different perspective. How does the plagues affect the Egyptians, and then also how does the plague affect the Israelites? And I figured out that, or what I've learned is that the ultimately God affects he separates, let me say this again, y'all. So ultimately God separates his people from the Egyptians, but he not only does he separates them, but he blesses them, which isn't what's the word I'm looking for? It isn't directly said in the scriptures. You kind of have to figure it out. And then also the plagues. So let me say this again. I'm sorry. So God separates them. He blesses them. He completely annihilates the Egyptian economy. And then he also mocks them at the same time, because every single plague that the Egyptians endure, that they go through, mocks one of the gods that they praise and they worship. Okay, and so the plague differs. So where the different differentiation comes in is after plague 3. So the very first 3 plagues, the Israelites are affected. But then after the third plague, in Exodus 8:22, God says, "And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies." So this swarms of flies is the fourth plague. "So that no swarms of flies shall be there to the end. Thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth." Right? And so, and hold on. That I am the in the midst of the earth. Okay, yeah. So God separates them after the third one. But then as we're going through, you see here, like, I had to go through Exodus 12:12. You guys bear with me. This is the very first time I've ever done this, and so it's gonna be a little, but just go with me, go with me. So in Exodus 12:12, God says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." And then in Exodus 6:6, God says, Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you of their bondage, and I will redeem you and stretch with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. So that's so in 8:22, God says the same thing. He says, "I'm going to separate them, and you guys are going to know that I am the Lord." He makes that very clear. And so he says, "I'm going to judge you guys, and I'm going to separate my people. They will be redeemed, and you guys will experience judgment. Not just you, but also the gods that you serve, the gods of Egypt." Who are the gods of Egypt? The gods of Egypt are the evil spirits, the devils, the demons that reign in Egypt. They are the ones who have like I don't know, like power over that territory. You guys, you ever think of, like, like, oh, this place or that place is going through spiritual warfare. There's a spiritual being or power that's like controlling that place or whatever. And basically that's who the gods of Egypt are. It's the evil spirits, or the evil spirits that are reigning in this country, that is, and the people are worshiping those people. And God is saying, "I want you guys to know who I am," since y'all playing in my face, right? So God says he's going to redeem the Israelites, and he's going to execute judgment because he is the Lord. All right, so now I'm going to go on to my next page. And again, I want you guys to know that, so the gods of Egypt are evil spirits, and then God mocks those evil spirits, because every single plague that is placed upon the Egyptians are a representative of one of the Egyptian gods and or the evil spirit that they worship. I also want to mention that in Exodus 1:11, when the very first, there's two pharaohs. So the very first pharaoh that is upset with the Israelites that there are so many of them, he puts them in bondage. And it says, "Therefore they did as in the Egyptians, set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses." And then also, when Moses goes to talk to Pharaoh the very first time, Pharaoh says this. Pharaoh says, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." And then Pharaoh, at that point, he then gives them more work. He gives them more burden upon the Israelites. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the plagues. I'm going to start from plague 4, because that is when God, because after the third plague, starting from the fourth plague is when God separates the people And then that's when we see the blessings coming through. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail exactly what each plague is. A lot of them are self-explanatory, but if you really want to know, you can go read the plagues, and it starts in chapter 7. So the fourth plague is the swarm of flies. In Exodus 8:24, hold on. In Exodus 8:24, it says that the land after the swarm of flies was corrupted. And this could have been a blessing to the people of Israel because, again, in Exodus 1:11 and then in Exodus chapter 5, they were burdened. They had to work. They had to build cities. They had to build the bricks. They had to build what they call them things, pyramids. And so when the land became corrupted, they weren't able to then make bricks. They weren't able to gather straw. They weren't able to perform their duties as they once were able to. And so the word corrupted there means to be destroyed. So the land was destroyed. So what they was using to build these cities, they couldn't do that no more. So their work from the very first one, from the swarm of flies, gets diminished. And then we have the very next one, which is number 5, which is the disease of cattle. Excuse me. Which is the disease of cattle. Now, the Bible in Exodus 9:3 specifies the cattle of the field. Cattle are horses, they're donkeys, they're camels, oxen, cows, and sheep. The context to that is not just that these animals died, but the byproducts of these animals are affected. And here are some examples. So cows, there's no meat. Oxen, there's no plow. There's nothing to plow the fields for farming. Horses, they have no chariots. Donkeys, they have no ways to travel. Camels, no ways to travel. Sheep, they have no way to make new clothes. They have sheep are also people also eat sheep. And so when God kills all the cattle of the Egyptians, this does a big hit to their economy. They basically can't do a lot of much of anything. And so and I was thinking, well, they get more cattle, right? Well, how do they get more cattle? They could do it one of two ways. They can go out to another land and buy more cattle, right? But God killed their donkeys and their camels. There was no way for them to travel. Who has cattle? Who has cows and oxen and horses and donkeys and all these things? The Israelites do. The Israelites, they're in Egypt. They don't have to. So that leads me to believe that the Egyptians, for them to have more cattle for the plague of hail and fire, means they had to get cattle from the Israelites, because they couldn't go out and go get it from different countries. I mean, they could have, but that probably would have taken them a long time. And I don't know the geography of all of Egypt, but I know there's like sand and deserts and all of that. So it makes me even question, is that even feasible for them to go out on foot to different countries to gather cattle and then to bring them all through the desert? And so they take a big hit in their economy there, and the Israelites benefit, because now, if I have a sheep, if I have a cow and you need new clothes, you're gonna pay me extra, or you know what I'm saying, because I know you don't have it, right? So that's what I got from the swarm of flies. Excuse me, the disease of cattle, not the swarm of flies, from the disease of cattle. So then after the disease of cattle, hold on, y'all. After the disease of cattle comes the plague of boils. Now, this one took me a little while to figure out what was the benefit to the Israelites, right? But in Exodus 9:11, it says that the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. So God sent them a grievous boils. He sent them grievous boils with blains upon every man and upon every beast. And so at this point in time, if like I said, if you haven't read it, go through and read it. But if you have read it, then you know that for it actually stops after the third one, which is pretty funny too, which is another way that 3 comes up, right? But for the first couple of plagues, Pharaoh brings up the magicians and he tries to see if they can match or if they can do what God does. And it's even funny that I say that because, real quick, in with the swarm, with the third plague, which is the plague of lice, in Exodus 8:19, the magicians even say this. Now, this is the third plague. Remember these numbers. This is the finger of God, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. So even the magicians, after the third plague, they're like, listen, this is all God, okay? But going back to what I was talking about, that was a little side street I took. But going back to the boils, the boils were so grievous that the magicians could not stand before Moses. And so the blessing in that would be the taskmasters of Pharaoh could not stand above the Israelites for them to do work. They could not torment them. They could not beat them. They could not hurt them in any way. And so that was the blessing in the boils. That was the way that the Israelites were blessed with the plague of the boils. They didn't have to work, or at least, I mean, that's what I would think. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm like, oh, my task will work, my taskmaster, he can't work because he's in bed, he's in pain or whatever. Why would I go to work? Why would I do that? So then, the next plague is number 7, and plague number 7 is the plague of hail and fire. So for the plague of hail and fire, God brings down like a storm, like a rainstorm with a lot of hail, and they also have fire on them. And the plague of hail and fire, the plague of hail and fire kills everything. It kills everything in the field: people, animals, crops, vegetables, trees. I said vegetables, trees, fruits, vegetables, anything that is basically outside gets killed. The only thing that is not destroyed is what has not been harvested. And so the Lord, hold on, excuse me, I'm reading out, sorry. So the way that this is a blessing to the people is, again, they don't have to work. This is also a blessing because God doesn't kill the trees that are in the land of Goshen where the Israelites live. He doesn't kill the crops that are ready to be harvested. He doesn't kill the cattle that is out in the land of Goshen. So again, the Egyptians have to go to the Israelites for food. Also, we notice here that God kind of slowly takes the Egyptians through a famine, because you have to think about it. I didn't go over the first plague because it affected both of them. There was no blessing with the first plague. But the very first plague, which is turning the river to blood, turning water to blood, all of the fish in the river died. So the very first plague, all the fish died. So they can't eat no more fish. Now, it doesn't say if the fish come back. They could have. But it's safe to assume that they don't, because God is passing judgment over the land. So there's no fish. And then you get the swarm of flies, which destroys the land. Where do you farm from? The land. Then you get the plague of boils. Who work in the land? The Israelites. Taskmasters have boils. They can't work the land. Then you get the hail and fire, which kills everything in the land. So not only, and then there's also the plague of cattle, which killed all the cattle. So slowly God kind of takes them through this famine too. So there's no fish, there's no cattle, and now there's no food to be harvested. And the only people who have food are the Israelites, right? And so God slowly takes them just one step closer, to famine. And so the Israelites benefit here again, because if I'm an Egyptian and I need to eat, and I left everything I had in the fields, where am I going to go get food from? The Israelites. That's who I'm going to buy food from. The next plague after that is the locust. So, going back to hail and fire, Moses says in Exodus, I have it written down, just give me 1 second. In Exodus 9 and 31 and 32, it says, and the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bald. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up. And so when we get the plague of the locusts, God tells them, hey, the locust, whatever the hail didn't get, the locust is gonna finish. The locust gonna get it all. And that's exactly what happens. It says right here in Exodus 10 and 5, and they, the locusts, shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. So again, the benefits for the locust, or the blessings from the locust, is the very same as the locust from the hail. And then the darkness, so the next one is the darkness. The darkness was so thick they could feel it. And the Egyptians couldn't move for 3 days. Guess what that means? 3 days I ain't going to work. So outside, so in the Bible, it does say that the entire land was covered with darkness. However, in the dwellings of the Israelites, where they lived inside their homes, they had light. Whereas the homes of the Egyptians, no light could be found. And so if the whole land is dark, I can't go to work. So it's very ironic, because the very first time that Moses goes to Pharaoh, Pharaoh is like, and who is God? And why should I listen to him? You know what? Since you up here telling me to let them go to go praise the Lord, they obviously have way too much time on their hands. I am going to give them more work. And as the plagues continue, slowly but surely, all that work that the Pharaoh gave them that was extra, they couldn't do none of it. They couldn't even do the first part of the work, let alone the extra. So it's pretty funny to me. The irony in that is that, as the plagues continue, the Israelites can't work. And then the final plague, which is the death of the firstborn. Now, this one should be very obvious. The blessing is that there's no dead people. There is no, none of their firstborns died. Now, I couldn't, when I was reading the book of Exodus, I even did some of the footnotes to look around the Bible, and I looked, I Googled it, and I could not find anything specifically that says firstborn sons. Matter of fact, I found a psalm that says, hold on, Psalms 105:36, that says all the firstborn were affected. And then in Exodus, let me go to it, just give me 1 second. And it says here, it says somewhere in Exodus, I'm trying to find the exact, I'm so sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, yeah. So in Exodus 12 and I'm going to read 29 through 30. And it says, "And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead." And so I was thinking, well, what if I was married but I didn't have any children? What if I hadn't what if I was a man and I was living by myself, or I was living with my brothers and my sisters? It says every house had one dead. So that leads me to believe that regardless of who you were, what age you were, what gender you were, if you were born first and you did not follow the instructions given by Moses, you died. And so that's the obvious blessing of the death of the firstborn, that none of their people died because everybody followed the instructions of Moses. But also at this point, it says in the chapter 12, I'm not going to go through and find the exact verse, but it says in chapter 12 that the Lord allowed the Israelites to spoil the Egyptians. And so basically what that means is that they borrowed jewelry from them. It'd be like if I say, "Hey, can I borrow your gold ring or whatever?" And then I took that, and then I'm gonna give it back to you tomorrow, and then I left and I ain't came back. But also you can take that a little further, because it says in Exodus, it says God will give the Israelites favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. And so if you think about it, so starting from 4 through 9, right up when we get to 10, or 4 through 10, the Egyptians are having to go to the Israelites. The Israelites, they making bank. They're making money. And another way to think about it, if the spoil thing, if I didn't explain that right, you can also Google the word spoil and what it means. But another way to think about it is the Egyptians could have seen it as an investment. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, these people have cattle, they have crops, they have all these things that we don't have. So if I invest with them, if I put an investment in them, then I'm going to see a return. And that's how the way my brain has processed it. Not just borrowing, but people are like, oh, they making money over there, I'm going to invest with them. And then God is like, take it all. And there is a Bible verse, and it's in Proverbs 13:22. And that says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. And while I was writing my notes, I thought about that. So that the wealth that these evil people, that they had, God gives the Israelites favor in these people's eyes. These people then invest into the Israelites, and then God says, take it all. Everything that they had built up on your backs, everything that they had built up from your work, from your labor, the way that they tormented you, beated you, smited you, I want you to take all of the riches that they gained from your work, from your torment, and take it. And that's what they did. And not only did they take it, but they left, right? And so as I'm going through the 10 plagues, so that's all the 10 plagues, you see that God God annihilates the Egyptian economy, and he takes them through a famine. He affects their ability. And you know what? Now that I'm making this video, he also affects the Egyptians' ability to trade with other countries. Because guess what? If you ain't got no fish, you ain't got no cattle, you ain't got no oxen, no sheep, no horses, no chariots, you ain't got no crops, why would I do business with you? You can't give me anything because you don't have anything. God destroys them. God destroys their economy. But the Israelites prosper. They prosper. I put here that the Israelites wasn't missing no meals. and they was on a paid vacation. But then after the final plague, right, in chapter 12, God gives Moses the instructions for the Passover. So what is the Passover? The Passover is the first of the year. I'm not going to go too much in detail what the Passover is. I'm just going to say that because that's the part that's important to my video. But you can Google it and read on what the Passover is. But the Passover is the first of the year. And so, and that God gives that to Moses in the 12th chapter of Exodus. Going back to my numbers, right? The numbers I gave in the beginning. Give me 1 second. Hold on, y'all. So the number 12 means destruction in the Hebrew, divine order and authority and completeness. It is in the 12th book and the 12th chapter, it is in the 12th chapter that God, he sends the angel in Exodus 12:13, he sends the angel called the destroyer to kill all the firstborn. And in the same chapter, he gives Moses the instructions for the Passover for the new year. And then, so there goes authority, there goes order, there goes completeness, because after the 10th plague, all the plagues were done. There goes destruction. And then also in the Greek, 12 means boundless, bottomless, and the usage is abyss. And if you guys remember, there is an angel of the abyss. Now, are these two separate angels? They could be. There could be an angel of the abyss, and there could be an angel called the destroyer. But I just thought that was very interesting that there is an angel called the destroyer in the 12th chapter, verse 23, and that goes through and kills the firstborn. I also went through and found out the definition of 23. So 23 means to be indignant and to grieve much. There is no coincidences in God. And so, is it a coincidence that the destroyer, that they talk about the destroyer in the 23rd verse of the 12th chapter, and that 23 means to be indignant and to grieve much? No, it is not. And indignation, the word indignation means anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. So all of that comes together. So going back to where I was at when I was talking about the Passover, which happens in chapter 12. 12 means divine authority and order. 12 also means destruction. And then going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, which is Exodus 12:12. 12 is destruction and destruction. And it says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt, and I will execute judgment, because I am the Lord." And so, and the judgment is given through the angel called the destroyer, destruction. I hope y'all getting it. Y'all should be. It's very, anyways, moving on. So then, so this is what prompted me to, because I was thinking about I had all this stuff, and I was thinking about when should I make the video, when should I post the video, and here's what prompted me to post it today. So one of the prophets I follow, she made a video today, which I will link in the description box, and in it she was giving a prophetic word for the year 5784, and in her title, and she explains it in her videos, that 5784 comes out to 12:12. I'm gonna go back and read Exodus 12:12 one more time. It says, "For I, God, will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. We are walking into year 1212. So this will be a year, it's going to be a great year if you're an Israelite. And so this is a question to really ask yourself, right? Are you an Egyptian and are you an Israelite? Or are you an Israelite? You know what I'm saying? If you do it the other way, if you take 5784 and you add it up the other way, 5784 adds out to 24. 24 is 2 12s, which is 12 plus 12, 12, 12 again. The number 24, guess what the number 24 means, y'all? No, it doesn't mean destruction. It means, the number 24 means indignation. So 12 and 12 is 24. We're walking a 5, 7, 8, 4, which is 12 and 12. Indignation means anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Where did we hear the word indignation before? In verse 23 of chapter 12, when the destroyer, the angel, came down and killed all the firstborns. And so this is a year that we're going into where yeah. There's going to be a lot that happens. And if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that we've been having a lot of strange occurrences, once in a lifetime occurrences, like hurricanes all over, earthquakes all over, and not just here in the United States, but in also countries everyone's going through. Not everyone, but there have been a lot of natural disasters. There have been a lot of, if you've been really paying attention, you would have noticed that there have been a lot of cattle that have died over the past, since the world event that happened 3 years ago. And if you're really paying attention, you'll notice that a lot of the farmland is being bought up by certain people, and you'll notice that a lot of the farms are not bearing crop like they used to. And so if you're really paying attention, you will see that what we're facing right now is really just a precursor of what's to come. And I'm gonna mention that again in a little bit. But I really just want to make a point of asking, are you really rocking with God? Are you really an Israelite? Or are you saying you're an Israelite, but you're really an Egyptian? Are you praising other gods? Are there other people, other things that take precedent over your life, over your life? Are there other things, other people that you are worshiping and not God? Because going back to Exodus 12:12, God is going to execute judgment against all the Egyptians, all of their animals, and against all of their gods. So who is God in your life, right? And then next, we're right towards the end. Now, when I was talking about the precursor, or the beginning, right? Something I also noticed while I was reading Exodus is something I was asking myself was, why do the first 3 plagues affect the Israelites, right? And so I couldn't really figure it out. And this part is just an assumption, but y'all flow with me, right? If you go back and you read Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 9, God tells Moses the 3 signs. Moses asked God, well, what if the people don't believe me? If I go to them and say, hey, God told me he's gonna free us, and I gotta go to Pharaoh, because Moses is supposed to go collect the elders, and it's the elders of Israelites. So it's supposed to be Moses and the elders of the Israelites that go to Pharaoh and demand that they be set free, right? And so Moses is asking God, like, why would I, why, like, what if they don't believe me, right? And so then God tells him, show them these three signs. And if you go back, the three signs are the snake, leprosy. God told him to put his hand to his chest. When he removes it, it has leprosy. And then when he puts it back, then remove it again, there's leprosy. And then the last one is taking a, words, I'll read right here. Take water from the river and pour it on dry land, and the water will be turned into blood. And so then we read in Exodus chapter 4, verse 30 and 31, and I'll read that. Hold on. It says, and Aaron, so Moses tells Aaron, in verse 28, Moses tells Aaron, and then Moses and Aaron, they go, in verse 29, they go to go get the elders of the Israelites. And then this is verse 30, it says, and Aaron spake all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, that he had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshipped, right? But then Moses goes to Pharaoh for the very first time, and Pharaoh's like, who is the Lord? And that's when Pharaoh gives them more work. And then in chapter 5, verses 20 through 21, it says the officers, hold on, 20 says, and the officers, because the officers, they're like, listen, we gotta, after they get more work, they're not able to complete it, they go to the officers, they go to Pharaoh, the taskmasters beat them, they go to Pharaoh, and they're like, well, bro, this is, you told us, you gave us more work, you know we couldn't do this. And then Pharaoh was like, oh, but y'all wanted to go serve the Lord, y'all clearly had extra time on y'all hands, so I gave y'all extra work. So as they're leaving Pharaoh, they come across Moses, and they say to Moses, and it says, and they met Moses and Aaron, who stood in the way, and they came forth from Pharaoh, and they said unto them, the Lord look upon you and judge, because ye have made our savor to be abhorred in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, to put a sword in their hand to slay us. So the officers of the Israelites, they mad, they extra mad. And so when I was thinking about why the Israelites had to go through the first 3 plagues. Now, again, this is just my assumption. I remembered this part, and I thought, wow, God gave them 3 signs. They believed the first 3 signs, but then when the going got a little tough, then they was mad. Then they was talking about God's servants. They wanted God to judge the servants, and the servants are doing what God has told them to do. And so I believe that because like I said, there's no really, again, this is all assumption, so if you disagree with this part, okay, but I believe that the 3 signs and the first 3 plagues was kind of like their punishment for being mad at the servants, and for wanting, because it kind of sounds like, let me go back to it. It says, it's the word savor that gets me, because you have made our savor to be abhorred in the eyes of Pharaoh. And it's like, and I had to Google what the word savor means, right? But like our taste, our I don't really know how else to describe it, but the way that I was reading it was like we was good and now we not good. But in reality, they're not good. But they would rather go through bondage and torment than to just kind of be afflicted for a little bit to then get to the end, to the blessings. And then they wanted the servants of God to be judged. And so that's why I think they went through the very first plagues, why they had to be afflicted by the first 3 plagues. But again, that's just my little assumption. But I also wanted to say this, whether you believe in prophets or not, If you are an Israelite, if you go to church, if there's someone that you follow, if you don't know how to hear from God, then go out and get closer to God so that you can hear him. Because when the plagues are happening, God don't tell nobody. The only person he told was Moses. Moses told Aaron, and they are prophets. And again, if you don't believe in prophets, that's fine, but you do want to be connected with somebody or know somebody who can hear God very clearly, who will give you the instructions that you need to make it through this period, to make it through these plagues, and ultimately to make it through the promised land. Granted, they didn't make the promised land for like another 40 years, but they left their oppressors though, right? And they did get blessed. And if you go through affliction, do not blame the people who are serving God. That was also something that I grabbed from there. But that's basically it. I went through all my notes. I think I gave it all to you guys the way I was supposed to. I hope you guys was picking up what I was putting down. The only other thing, oh yes, I just want to go through the numbers again really quick, really fast, and then I should be done with this video. So again, the number 3 means, in Hebrew, means freshness. The word origin is Abib. In Exodus 13, the word Abib is the first month of the year. That's when does the Passover take place? The first of the year. So they left, the Israelites left Exodus. They went straight into the very first month of the year, which is the Passover. That month is called Abib. Number 3, the word origin for number 3 is Abib. I should have wrote the words down. I'm so sorry I did not do that, but you guys can just Google it, put these numbers in, put in Strong Hebrews Concordance, Strong Greek Concordance, and it'll give you the exact words. I forgot to write them down. I am so sorry. Oh wait, no, I do have some of them. I have 3. Okay, so number 3, the word is Abaddon, and the Greek means freshness, and the word origin is Abib, first month. Number 3 also means Abaddon, angel of the abyss. Now again, I don't know if the angel called the destroyer is also the same angel of the abyss named Abaddon, but I do know that Abaddon is mentioned in Revelation 9:11. Let me just double check. Yep, Abaddon is the king of the bottomless pit. That is in Revelation 9:11. I am going to do another video on plagues, but I don't know when, and I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. But anywho, so that's the angel of the abyss, and it also means the word origin of Abaddon is also destruction. Number 7, Hebrew means to perish. It also means completion, and then the usage of to perish in the concordance also says destruction. In the Greek, it means number 7 means abaya, which is 2 Israelite names, and the origin of the word abaya is Yah is my father. And number 10, Hebrew means destruction, and in the Greek it means Abihud, the son of Zerubbabel. The origin of that word is my father is majesty. So Yah is my father, and my father is majesty. Number 12, Hebrew means destruction. It also means this is not in the Strong's Concordance, but the number 12 also means divine order and authority, and it means completeness. It also means in the Greek boundless, bottomless, and the usage is for the abyss, where there is a king of the abyss. His name is called Abaddon, which is the number 3. The number 6 in Hebrew means to perish. I didn't tell you guys how I got the number 6. Well, I'm gonna get to that. And in Greek, it also means Abel. Yes, Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, so death, destruction. And to perish, the usage of that is also destruction. So we have 7, the number is 3, 7, 10, 12, 6, destruction. How did I get these numbers? Well, for number 1, they're repeated quite a bit. But when I first started, 10 total plagues. 3 of them affect the Israelites. 7 of them do not. The number 12 is repeated quite a bit. But I had this one down because of 12:12, Exodus 12:12, and in the year 5784 it comes out to 12. Then here's how I got the number 6. 5784 comes out to 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 also means destruction, which is also half of 12. 6 plus 6 is 12. And then 24 means indignation. 23 means indignation. And then the only other thing I wanted to add is number 3, which is freshness. And I really couldn't, I was trying, the way that I kind of get this one to like, I think of freshness because it's something, when I think freshness, I think of like it's something new. And after the 3rd plague, of course, we know the Israelites aren't affected, but then also once they go out into, once all the plagues are over, where they weren't affected, right? They also have Abib, which is the new month, and they start afresh. So that's kind of how I put that in there. But that's all that I have for this video. I know that it was long. I know that I said a lot, but I've had this on my mind for a little while, and it was finally today when I seen that 12:12 that I was like, today is the day to put this out. So as we go into the new year, just be very mindful. And if you don't know the Lord, this might be the time to start knowing him. And if you're lukewarm, this might be the time to not be lukewarm anymore. Because I just went through how many numbers mean destruction and how many things and all these numbers and stuff. And so the Lord is going to pass judgment. 12:12. I'm gonna read that one more time for y'all because it's really important. I'm gonna read the end though. No, I'm gonna read the whole thing. 12:12. The year 5784. 12:12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment, because I am the Lord. So the Lord is going to be executing some judgment. But if you're an Israelite, then there's blessings in the plagues. There's blessings in the judgment for you. But you got to be a real Israelite. You can't be lukewarm. You can't be you can't be praising other gods and worshiping other gods and you're not really living like how you're supposed to. I think that's it that I have for this video. If you watched through the whole thing, I do want to say thank you so much for watching. That's all that I have, and I will see you next time. Bye.